the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score, raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Hello and welcome to the CanesWear Podcast on this Wednesday, April 9th, Gio. And we're on the FTSN network. If you can go ahead and like and subscribe. Tons of great podcasts that Bobby and the crew do on YouTube, and lots of great things going on for the Canes, the Dolphins. We're going to be doing a sports gambling show. Lots of fun things. So make sure you like and subscribe that. Great week coming up with the spring game and spring practice scrimmage last week. The draft coming up in 2 weeks, and it's an exciting week. And we've got, of course, the number one man in Canes football, from recruiting to everything else, Mr. Gio Milian. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Kids were running around a bit before I got on, but everything all settled now.
Well, fantastic, Gio. You're busy with the kids at the U, and then you come home to the kids in the Gio family, right? You're always surrounded by kids, and you're not that old yourself.
True. I'm still a kid at heart.
Of course, we all are.
So
a big week for the Canes. We just had a scrimmage, right? We've got the spring game coming up, and like I said, the draft, where we may have the number one pick in the whole draft. So we'll get to that, which is exciting. We've got maybe 10 or 12 kids that could be drafted this year, right?
Yeah, could be around that ballpark number. You look at guys like Cam Ward, Xavier Estrepo, Jacoby George, Sam Brown, Elijah Arroyo, Jalen Rivers. Flip it over to the defensive side. Simeon Barrow, he definitely should get drafted. Kiko Mauanua could go late as well. Even Mish Powell potentially late. So that, yeah, roughly so. Tyler Barron's going to get drafted.
Wow.
A few teams like him as a pass rusher. So
that's quite a bit. It's and Elijah Arroyo is going to get drafted, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so he could be the second guy off the board for the Canes, right?
Yeah, very good chance. I would say maybe between him and Damian Martinez, between those two guys, very likely to be the second one off the board.
So we could literally have possibly 3 guys in the first 2 rounds?
Good chance that could happen, yeah. I know based on like the latest feedback, Arroyo and Martinez are looking like round 2, round 3 type of guys right now. So,
all right. So it's pretty impressive because we have gone a couple of years where we have not had a lot of people drafted, and this year we're really stacked. So would you make this because Mario, the recruiting and all the people he's brought in for the transfer portal, what would be the number one reason why you think our draft stock is going to be much higher this year than it has been in the past?
What, in terms of this year's team?
Yes, in terms of this year's team. How many kids will have drafted?
I think you got for sure one first, potentially maybe even 2, to be honest, but for sure one first rounder on this team right now, and Francis Mauanua. You have a guy who could be a top 100 prospect in Markel Bell, who's having a really good spring. A lot of good feedback coming in on him. Carson Beck, people forget this, but a year ago at this time, he was projected to be like a top 10 pick, even going as far as number 1 in some early mock draft before this season.
Exactly. A lot of people were predicting him. And I was looking at it, says, how are they liking this guy over Cameron to be number 1 at the beginning of the season? He's not even that good. I mean, and then here he's on our team. And it's amazing that talking to fans, there's not that much excitement. I mean, there is excitement with some, but because we had Cam Ward last year, if we didn't have Cam Ward last year, I think there'd be, and he was coming in after Tyler Van Dyke or somebody, there'd be a lot more excitement. But with the fact that we're coming off of Cam Ward, Carson Beck is not getting all the play, which means I think a lot of people could be surprised at how good he is if he's healthy. Yeah,
obviously, I know some people have their concerns about, like, man, Carson Beck's not throwing this spring and whatnot. But the general consensus, speaking to majority of guys that have played for the Hurricanes in the past and guys that have gone on to play professional football for the most part, is that yes, would it be ideal that he could be throwing with the guys right now? Yes. But there's not necessarily too much that he's missing. A lot of this is just early install stuff. Really, the meat on the bone will be fall camp. And then even before that, people forget this, that doesn't stop him from throwing with these guys once he's like cleared to completely start throwing again within like the next week or give or take, that he gets together with the guys in like non-official practices or just functions that they put together. The guys do this throughout the offseason. So he will have time with those wide receivers to get the timing down and just the combos and everything.
All right, cool. Let's remember, the comments, feel free to leave them. We're going to pick somebody at the end of the show for a $25 CanesWear gift card. I know we have a few people. We still need to reach out to us so they can get their cards. So if you haven't reached out to us, please do. First of all, welcome, Jacoby. Thanks for joining us. Jacoby's got real ball followers are in the building. Absolutely, Jacoby. Great seeing you again. Wayne is here. Thanks for joining, Wayne. Wayne, is Dalen Russell someone you see playing here, or will he end up transferring? What do you think about that, Gio?
That's a good question. So he came in with last year's recruiting class, not this one. It got leapfrogged already by Dante Simpson, the freshman defensive tackle that just came in. With Dalen Russell, the thing more so with him is just putting on more size. Still needs to do a bit of that. How would I put it into better words? Still a bit raw and unpolished as well when he was coming in. So I don't want to – I always go by this rule of thumb. I've always said this, that I like to give players about 3 years within a program before you really determine what they're actually going to be. Nowadays, maybe you might not get all 3 years of a player. Some guys are just hopping right into the portal no matter what. But I still think it's a little too early. I don't think that he'll be a major player in terms of the rotation at defensive tackle this year, though.
All right. Well, if he's there, hopefully it stays that way and nobody is injured or anything like that. That's the greatest thing when you get the depth and some guys can't see the field as much as they want to. Hello, Kim Sanchez. Thank you for joining us. She loves the show. Thank you. Wayne is back with another question. What's going on with DT and linebacker recruiting? It just feels like there's no movement at these positions. Hearing that a lot. What do you think, Gio?
So linebacker recruiting, I wouldn't say that specifically. They have that board like very well expanded. Defensive tackles, there's not a lot of guys in the South Florida area up until just most recently with the defensive tackle, James Johnson, transferring from North Fort Myers to Miami Northwestern. He's at like the absolute near top of the defensive tackle board for Miami. They're also going after a couple guys like Vodney Cleveland out of the state of Alabama area. High school that he goes to actually is the same one that Timothy Merritt, former Miami commit, who flipped to Tennessee like right near the end of the recruiting cycle last year. Both went to the same high school and whatnot. But there's still other names that are in the mix there. Miami was going after I forget this kid's name because it's so ridiculously easy to butcher it, but Tominui Tope is Samoan kid from the West Coast. Miami really loved him. He backed off his Oregon commitment, went with USC. I know Miami's still pursuing there. But yes, in terms of your question about defensive tackle, I do expect them to expand the board there at that position once we get out of spring practice now, and then high school spring practice starts revving up for schools around the country. The coaches, they'll get back out on the road. They'll start watching some tape, and things will continue to shift there. But I do agree with you that the board is not very large in terms of defensive tackles this year.
So it's not very large. So, but we're talking about recruiting, not for this current class and transfer portal, recruiting for the future years. It gets confusing nowadays with, who's recruiting, who we got in the transfer portal. It's a whole new game than it was. We've got 904 Kane. Thanks for joining us. Josh Horton Jag. Haven't heard much about him. I thought this would be his year.
Yeah, look, he's had a couple of injuries since he's arrived at Miami. This is his third year with the program. Um, hasn't been that jump in development that you would hope and expect from him. They were kind of hoping he was going to be that big nose tackle type. He's about like 6'5", 6'6", near 300 pounds, but hasn't really materialized yet. Even throughout this spring, there hasn't been that light bulb yet, or that moment that you think that, oh man, now he could really be a guy. He could really help this team. That hasn't really happened yet. So I don't want to jump out and say names of guys transferring or whatnot, but I do expect Miami to hit the portal for a defensive tackle, or potentially two, just coming out of spring, just to shore up your depth there. You have your top three guys like Justin Scott, David Blay, Ahmad Moten, and young pup like Dante Simpson really stepping up this spring and opening up some eyes for some people. But then, Artavius Jones, not really entirely there yet. Dalen Russell, not either. Josh Horton, multiple injuries he's had. So still some question marks there. You want to get a veteran guy or two to really shore that up, and especially heading into the season. Very similar to last year's team. Look at what they did. They brought in CJ Clark, Simeon Barrow. They had Anthony Campbell from the year before, but he developed a bit more within the program. Marley Cook. They had a lot of veteran guys at that position.
No, absolutely. So how many guys can we still add? And how many guys do you think we may lose?
Here, I'm not sure on the exact number of how many they will lose yet. I've heard some early preliminary names that are looking to enter the transfer portal, but I don't even think that's the entirety of it yet. I would say, just relative to that question, though, when it comes to what they could take, I think they should look in the quarterback market. I mentioned this on Sunday, and I'll bring it up again. I think you have to. I know it's very promising that Luke Nichols had a couple of nice early practices. The game's starting to slow down a bit for him. Mm-hmm. But you have a lot of up and down throughout spring. No one has really entrenched themselves as that definite number two. It's still very much an open competition, and I expect it to stay that way even going through fall. That should be the expectation for everyone. So I think they should dip into the transfer portal at quarterback, because I do think that they will lose one guy from that room to the spring portal. You would love if they can get a depth piece at running back. If they can't, you have a ton of insurance with Elijah Lofton, who's a heck of a running back too. Tight end. So he's kind of like your third back if you really need that. Chris Wheatley-Humphreys had a couple of moments recently in practice too, stepping up. Gerard Pringle, a little banged up, freshman, flashy, explosive, but you would like to add one more guy to that room, because at the end of the day, you really only have 4 scholarship running backs. Then I'd expect 2 wide receivers, a big X type of wide receiver, and then a slot receiver as well. I expect Miami to go looking in both of those directions. I've been told a couple names. I've shared a couple names in the private board as well that some people are already aware of, that are having some of those conversations with their agents and whatnot, because that's what happens in college football now. A depth piece or 2 on your offensive line. Coach Mirabal said he feels comfortable with about 7 to 8 guys in that room that they feel that they could play starter quality reps, but I know they would love to add more if it's possible. Defensive tackle, like I mentioned earlier. Defensive end, I wouldn't say that's off the table. I know they're really happy with what they have in that room right now. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, Armando Blunt really stepping up this spring. Malik Bryant has put on even more weight now, looks more like a defensive end. You also point to guys like Hayden Lowe, the true freshman that's really, really opened people's eyes this spring, way ahead of the curve for what you'd expect he would be coming into a college football program just in the spring. Really should be in high school still. Marquise Lightfoot's really starting to come along now too at defensive end. So you got quite a few guys in that room, and I haven't even mentioned guys like Cole McConaughey, who's been a little banged up. So they have a lot of talent in that room, but I don't think they would shy away from adding a top flight pass rusher, ALA, like similar to
Gio for a second. Can you hear me, Gio? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
We're good? Okay. Yeah, sorry about that.
You're good.
I don't think they would shy away from taking a top flight pass rusher, like very similar to what they tried doing with Tyler Barron last year. I think people forget that after spring last year, Miami added guys like Damian Martinez, Sam Brown, Simeon Barrow, Tyler Barron. I may be forgetting one or two names there, but those were key core pieces to last year's team. And most definitely, I even see a comment here about middle linebacker. Right on the money there, Jake Wynn, with your comment. They need one. Is there some young talent in the room? Yeah. Bobby Pruitt has flashed. He's flashed a lot throughout spring. Popo's had some moments too, but there hasn't really been a guy that has established himself as the alpha of that room, I would say, at this point. And you would like someone that could really set the tone in the middle of the defense, especially make the right calls and checks too, pre-snap as well. That's so key to this defense. They're very heavily focused on just communication and what they've been teaching throughout the entire defense throughout spring. I've seen it with the drills that they've ran before in terms of diagnosing pre-snap motion and shifts on the line. So all that good stuff. But last one, I would say safety. They definitely have to add someone next to Zachariah Poyser. Zachariah Poyser, I've said before, he's a dude. He's going to help Miami this year. He may be one of your, like, probably in that discussion for top 10 players on the team this year that can help. But you still have to add another veteran guy next to him. I know people get excited about Zaquan Patterson, but he's been out with an injury during spring. I know people get excited about Dylan Day stepping up, or even hearing Markeith Williams starting to step up, but it's still too much unknown. You have to add another guy that's proven there.
All right, good stuff. You can't hear that all everywhere. Good stuff, Gio. Let's see. New King God, welcome to the show. He's asking to rate these teams in order. I'm not asking I don't know if he's asking for how good they're going to be, recruiting or what. My guess is how good they'll be. Bama, Miami, Georgia, and Clemson. At this point in time, where do you think we're ranking with those four teams?
Well, I don't want to come off as a homer, so I'll say it like this. I think Alabama will be better. It's hard to say I think, but all right, fine. I think that they will be better just off the quarterback situation. That, like, they don't have Jalen Milroe anymore. I think they'll have a guy that Kalen DeBoer would prefer manning that offense. I could see them being a better team this year. So I'll go Alabama, Miami, Clemson, Georgia. Wow. I think people are really underrating Gunnar Stockton, like his level of talent. Like I watched when he came in for Carson Beck, and when he played in the ACC game, and when he played in the SEC championship, and not the ACC game, the SEC game and the playoff game. Sorry, I was wrong there. So I just don't see it with Gunnar Stockton. I don't. I know there's about one or two receivers that have transferred to Georgia that are reconsidering their decision as well. So again, I think it speaks volumes.
No, that's interesting to hear. I mean, if you told me right now that those four teams at the end of the year, who's going to be, I would gladly say that we're going to be the second out of those four. I mean, even in the odds, Miami is 25-1 to win the national championship. They were a lot higher last year. So there's a lot of the odds makers and the experts feel that Miami is the better team this year than they were last year, even without Cam Ward. Wayne has said, I guess he was answering you. See, that's my problem with defensive tackle, recruiting, everything you see it's said about Josh Harden. They need to go as hard as they can. Expand and bring in bodies and coach them up. I think that's what he says there. So thank you, Wayne. Yes. What do you think about that? I think, did he answer that, Gio?
Let me see what he says. See, and that's my problem with the defensive tackle recruiting. Everything you just said about Josh Harden. They need to go as hard as they do with the O-line. They should have been expanding the room, bringing bodies and coaching notes. Yeah, I agree. I think also, yes, it's great bringing in some veteran defensive tackles, but then you're back to square one again. I think they kind of have to address – well, I don't want to go too hard on them because there is talent in that defensive tackle room. They've Ahmad Moten is a guy that they've developed within this program. Justin Scott has taken another step this year. They identified David Blay, a G5 guy that can seriously play at this level. He's really popped since the pads have come on. But obviously, you would love to hear more positive things after those guys. The only thing you hear is a true freshman that just got here that's still 16 years old, and Dante Simpson, but just really impressive himself. I agree in the essence that they need to throw more numbers at it. I don't feel comfortable with like the depth there. I like the top of the room, like your ceiling of the room, but they need to raise the floor of the defensive tackle room. I entirely agree, especially just a long season. You're talking about 12 regular season games, conference championship, that's 13. You get into playoff games, you're talking about 14, 15, 16 games potentially. You need that depth in the defensive tackle room. Like you have it at defensive end, but defensive tackle, it's been lacking a little bit. And I know people have been talking about this for multiple years that, yeah, it's great. You know, we've landed some guys, but the room, like the floor of that room needs to be raised. And I totally agree.
Gio, how many of the guys that we got after the spring game last year were on other rosters, and how many were in the transfer portal? I know you don't, maybe not exact numbers, but of the guys we got, like Martinez, he was in the transfer portal already. He wasn't on a roster. I mean, Sam Brown, was he on a roster or was he already in the transfer portal?
So Sam Brown he left Houston for Miami.
So he was on a roster after the spring game. He left. Who else? Simeon Barrow, was he on a roster or was he?
Yeah, he was with Michigan State, and then you had the only guy that was kind of like in limbo was Tyler Barron, because he had some procedure done during the spring, and people forget this, but he was at Louisville, and he had just transferred from a previous program. Like he was with Tennessee the year before. The winter period, he decided to transfer to Louisville, then backed out of there when spring came around, the spring portal, and then came to Miami ultimately. Like Ole Miss was in the mix too and everything, but he was the one guy that was kind of like in limbo, that he wasn't truly on a roster, and things were very much up in the air and whatnot. But yeah, I do think the spring portal will be exciting, though. I think a lot of it has to do with, I'm sure everyone's been following what they're talking about with the new clearinghouse and everything for NIL and whatnot, and how they're going to govern it. So I think some guys are going to try to cash in on the frenzy before some regulation comes in.
There's going to be less players on a roster now, correct? There's going to be no walk-ons. Is that the way it's going to go?
From my understanding, yes. So the term walk-on will just kind of not really be a thing anymore. That maybe some teams will take some guys as like what would be considered a walk-on before in the past, but now you just, with the proposed limit they've talked about, it's like 105. I don't know if we'll get there just immediately. I think it may be a gradual thing, that maybe they'll go up by 5 every year, or maybe up by 10 every year just to get to that point. But you see Miami, they were trying to address this even before the spring. This is why they were going after extra offensive linemen, because people were asking, like, oh, well, we have only so many limited spots. Well, the coaches were accounting for that they felt that the roster limit could be raised in the very near future.
Is that going to be in every sport? I mean, like baseball, basketball, obviously the
baseball, yes. Basketball, it'll be a little different. I know teams they'll basically have a couple more spots in basketball compared to before, based on what's been proposed. But I would say the two biggest winners out of it, like if it ends up all happening, will be football and baseball for the most part.
Now in baseball, the rules have changed. It does, where it was that you had to pay for Miami. Now, if everyone's going to be getting a scholarship, they don't have to worry about it anymore, right? So they're on the same competitive field as everybody else, which is pretty amazing if that's the case for the Canes after all those years that we had to be on the playing field with
with
private
the
universities.
scholarship limits, and then how you have to spread each scholarship between X amount of players just to make it all work. And yeah.
But is it going to be full scholarships for everybody now? All 20, however many
Well,
players?
I know what they've proposed for baseball would be like few years out type of plan where gradually it'll raise at all these different schools, that you won't necessarily have the maximum limit that they're eyeing for, or they have as their set target. So it'll just be year over year, and eventually we'll get to that point.
So private schools will no longer be at a disadvantage over public schools. Like Florida and Florida State has always had a big advantage over Miami. And we didn't really notice. Obviously, when we were winning, it didn't matter. But now that we're not winning, it matters. That's correct?
Yes.
Awesome. That's good news. Taking a break from football for one moment, what's new in basketball that you hear? We have is it Jay Lucas or Jai Lucas?
Jay Lucas.
Jay Lucas. Okay. We saw obviously the team from the across the state win the national championship, which I know Canes fans were happy about, but brand new coach, 3 years with the program, turned it around. They've always been a competitive team, but they really have not been good for a while. It's got to be something exciting for Jay Lucas and the team now to say, hey, we can do this also.
I agree. And actually, he's keeping pretty true to his word in terms of trying to change the defensive makeup of the team, the mentality. You see it with these transfers that they've gotten in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll just list it off right here. Trey Donaldson, Ernest Uday, True Washington this afternoon, one of the better perimeter defenders. Malik Renew. 4 guys already there that they've added to this roster. They're going to continue adding more. There's a lot more room. You have your local guy like Marcus Allen that he used to play here in South Florida area, ended up going to Missouri. Actually, backstory on that was Coach Larinaga decided to pass on him. Coach Jay Lucas actually mentioned since his introductory press conference that they're going to take a little bit more of a deeper look in terms of local guys or maybe local ties back to South Florida. I know maybe South Florida is not like the breeding ground of hoop stars. Like you look at, just upstate and New York and those areas where like they live and breathe basketball. But there is some talent in the South Florida area. There has been.
No, that's awesome because it's always good to get some local kids, and there's obviously you hate to see when you're watching another team and it says from Miami, Florida, from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, from Plantation. That's always a killer. Is Coach L, involved with the program anymore, or it's pretty much he's hands off now that he's no longer coaching staff?
Pretty much hands off now.
Okay.
Not really like any type of advisor role or anything, just watching things from afar. But I wish him well. I mean, he brought this program to incredible heights that it had never seen before he got here. So
no, absolutely. We got to the Elite Eight and the Final Four. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, and Jay Lucas was talking about that. Coach Lucas was saying, hey, this team, they were the only team to do that. It's not like, we have in the recent history, but it's been pretty special. And that's a great thing that he's coming in here. Now, if we had not been to the Elite Eight and the Final Four, maybe, not that he had been coaching before, but maybe he takes the job, maybe he doesn't, but now he says, hey, they've been there. It's like, hey, he's been married. She's been married. She can do it again. All right.
If it's been done once, it can be done again. Yeah.
Exactly. New King God says, let's play a quick game. Fast forward to the end of the season, and Miami does make the ACC championship. What would the reason be? And can you tell me otherwise? Was it injuries or QB play?
So I think he's asking. Wait, fast forward to the end of the season, Miami does make the ACC championship. What would the reason be?
This season or last season? I guess this season.
I think he's talking about this upcoming season. Okay. Let's see here. What would the reason be why? I'll give I'll give 3 reasons. 1, an improved defense. I do wholeheartedly believe that the defense will be improved this season.
We better be.
I don't think you can get any worse than what it became last year. Number 2, I think Miami has the best offensive line group in the entire ACC, and that will go a very long way. And number 3, I think Miami's running back duo, as long as they stay healthy between Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle, I think it's a very special group. And I think it's conference championship caliber. That's my belief.
All right. Who's we have here? We have Canes, Cats, Heat. When is Coach Moran being announced?
No clue. I know it's happening, but don't know when they'll make it official. If I do hear something, I'll tell you. Canes, Cats, Heat.
As soon as you know, so tell. We missed Marsh before. Marsh Cristobal, thanks for joining the show. What are your thoughts on the slot receiver, and also who are the safeties that have stood out?
What is my
thoughts on the slot receiver, and who are the safeties that have stood out?
Okay, so thoughts on the slot receiver position overall. Just Ray's had some moments during spring camp. I've gotten some feedback coming from the private sessions that he's really stepped up, especially after that first week when everyone was talking about Malachi Toney and how great he looked and whatnot. Ray responded to that. Malachi Toney's had some really good practices too. I think it's just a healthy competition between those two. And then you go back to Ray's recent interview, and he talks about it, just the mentality of coming here to Miami. He said, I didn't come here just to get up and leave and transfer out or whatever. I came here to compete. And he talked about like the things that Xavier Restrepo taught him and just the mentorship that he had from him. I think it's been a good competition from everything that's come back in terms of feedback, but I don't think Miami shies away from potentially trying to add another guy at that spot just to raise the floor. If one of these young guys beat out a veteran guy that they bring in, great. But if they don't, you're still at a safe position because you can't waste what you have with Carson Beck coming here. You just can't. You have to surround him with weapons the very same way you did with Cam Ward. And I think they will get that done. There's a lot of interest. In terms of the safeties, though, of like who stood out, I've said before, Zachariah Poyser, he is a dude. He finds his way to the ball. Somehow he does it, but I don't know how, but he does. He finds his way around the ball, breaks up a lot of passes too. Dylan Day's had a nice camp. Still don't trust that like just long term yet. Still want to see if that carries over into fall camp, into the season. You never know what you're going to get with some of these young guys. You get to game day and they kind of freeze up. The moment may be too big for some guys. They may not be ready to play full time in a game yet. You never truly know until you get to that point, until guys become battle tested, basically. So I think just overall, like I said earlier, they have to get another veteran safety alongside Zachariah Poyser. They have to. All
right. So we should be looking for that very strongly in the portal. Let's see what we've got. Garrett Gittleman joins the show. Thank you very much, Garrett. We appreciate you loving the show. Hi, Anthony. Anthony Mazzano. He also asked, Anthony says, why are people hesitant to get behind Carson like they did Cam right away, which makes no sense to him? Carson played better competition in the SEC throughout his career. Why do you think that's the case, Gio? I mean, I would think that, first of all, he's not here. He's not playing into the season. And second of all, he didn't have a great year last year.
Well, I think that's the part of it that the reason why some people may not be as excited, because Carson Beck had what was considered a down year last year. But I've said this before, Carson Beck's down year is good enough for second or third best in a single season behind Cam Ward at Miami. And his best year at Georgia, which was the year prior when he had guys like Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. And let's be honest here, Carson Beck's going to have a guy by the name of Elijah Lofton and a very serious run game between Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher. He's going to have a supporting cast. They're going to continue adding around him. Off that alone, just having Elijah Lofton is going to help Carson Beck a lot. He loves to throw to the tight end. I know Miami's really excited about the tight end that they brought in from Tulane, Alex Bowman. People are not talking about him a lot, but when the season comes around, you'll see why. Basically, the words that have been shared to me is very, very consistent. They're very high on him internally in the program. So I think some of that you see that people are not as excited as they were with Ward because basically Carson having that down year last year. But it really wasn't like some terrible season, though. The way some people describe it, it's like, oh, no, he was terrible last year. He was not. The other thing that gets lost in translation is the context of that season. And what I mean by the context is Carson Beck's receiving core last year led the nation in yards in terms of dropped passes. They had like over 700 yards worth of dropped passes. That was number one in the nation. That's very bad numbers. You even speak to any pundits that watch Georgia or even covered Georgia, they'll say it too. Last year, the run game was not very good. The receivers, not very good either. Tight end room did not materialize like they expected. They thought Oscar Delp, number 4 at Georgia, was going to be a dude last year, and he didn't really materialize to be that type of guy. He wasn't Brock Bowers. So
yeah, exactly. He had a drop off he had that security blanket, and Cam had that pretty much with Xavier this year. But Brock, I mean, I think, him losing Brock Bowers, who obviously was so good in the NFL, was a huge loss for him. And, Cam, it was great, but he did have the receivers in the running game as well. I think he's going to be an awesome NFL quarterback. I think if you're picking teams, Tennessee may be a long shot this year. They're like, talking odds, they're about 8-1 or 10-1 to win their division. And they weren't that bad last year. So look out for Cam Ward in the, and Tennessee. But hopefully Beck is going to be different. Hopefully Beck's going to be special. I feel good about it.
I got one other fun fact, though. Because I've seen some recent top 10 returning quarterbacks lists that have surfaced around that people have been talking about that I think one or two guys in the national media mentioned. Carson Beck was in one of them. The other one he wasn't, and DJ Lagway was all the way at the top. I'm just going to say this. Carson Beck is the most winningest, is that even a real word? Maybe it's a real word. Most winning quarterback returning to college football this season. 24-3 as a starter.
That's amazing. That's 8-1 if you break it down.
If someone were to tell me that, like if I was just an average viewer, if someone were to tell me that number, and then I looked at a list of top 10 quarterbacks, I would say, how is he not on there? We're talking about a guy that was in the Heisman discussion before last season. He was very highly up there, top 5, top 10 projected pick. Obviously didn't have the greatest year, but it wasn't like he was terrible either. I just think it's crazy. A lot of hoopla, a lot of just settle it on the field. I think he's going to have a much better supporting cast around it. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to some people because you're talking about Miami and Georgia, but Miami's been improving as a program year over year. And you look at the talent that they had around Cam Ward last year. Yes, Cam Ward was generational. Heck yes, he was a phenomenal quarterback. But Carson Beck's not a slouch either.
No, and Cam Ward obviously had a much better year. While he had a good year at Washington State, he had a much better year at Miami. I mean, so I'd have to think the coaching. He had said after the Gator game, I think he said, this is the most prepared he's ever been going into a season and for that game, which is obviously, applauding the coaching staff. So they're taking what they're going with. This would be dynamic for the program. If Carson Beck can have a special year and we can have back-to-back quarterbacks in the upper first round, that would cement us, I think, as a quarterback program again. So I think one may not, but two definitely does, that people say, I want to go play for Miami. That would be awesome if we can do that. So we have an opportunity because let's just say anyone that's not excited about Carson Beck, I mean, were you excited about Emery? Now, I was excited about Emery when, I thought, okay, this guy may be special in his freshman year, the Clemson game, Virginia. I mean, he looked like, even against Florida State, it looked like, this is it. He was a warrior. He dove for that first down, but it just didn't seem like then we saw him in the bowl game. Not that one game can you judge a player, but I think a lot of people lost faith. And if we had the quarterbacks we have without Carson Beck coming back, I don't think anybody would be really sky high on the program like they are now. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think you and me even talked about it a couple of times ourselves in just some conversations that it seemed like a lot of the excitement, at least from the fans, kind of dissipated right after the bowl game, and everyone was just kind of like sky is falling type of feeling for some people, like, oh my God, we're never going to get a quarterback again. Cam Ward was it. That was it. That was our chance. And then lo and behold, Carson Beck ends up in Miami. Look, that I agree with you. It's I just feel, how would I describe this basically? With Carson Beck, it's the sense of you. If you've been around this team during spring and you see how this roster is constructed, it's much more well-rounded roster than it was last year. I can say that. You get the feeling that Beck is kind of that last piece to the puzzle. Obviously, you'd like to add a couple extra things here and there, but I think they should have a good season. I don't see any reason why they should not. Again, I know people were acting like the sky was falling before he arrived, but here we are again, and everyone is full of sunshine right now because, again, you got Carson Beck, 24-3, all SEC.
24-3. I see Matthew's got. Thanks for joining the show, Matthew. 8 minus 1 times 3 equals 24 minus 3. Thank you, Matthew, for that mathematical equation. That's why I put him through school. To be an attorney and to figure that out. Anthony, you want to read what, well, actually, before you go, Hassan had said something up here about the back channel talks with wide receiver. Any wide receiver that Miami likes in the spring, and do you think Miami has a good chance of getting them in the spring portal? Is there someone that we like that you think we're going to get? Anyone in particular? Can you spill names?
I can't spill names. I did spill some in the private board. It's just like, I don't want like anyone from Miami side of things getting upset or whatever.
I agree with you. We don't want that at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying that like Miami's like staff wise that they've reached out to these guys or whatever, but there are guys. I would say there's been about 3, potentially 4. I'm still not sure about the other one. I didn't get anything concrete on that, but it's been about 3 guys that have put out some feelers through their agents. That's really how these players are doing it now in the back channel sense, that they're interested. They're interested in multiple schools. Miami's been one of those names that have been brought up in those discussions, that those agents have been, just conversating with people. There's nothing wrong with that. So, again, let the games begin on April 16th. I think it's going to be very fun and exciting. I know some people are looking forward to this spring game. I just want to remind people the real spring game happened on Saturday. Everything that we see this upcoming Saturday, basically what I'm looking for is to see how guys respond when fans are around, when actual people are there watching them. But for the most part, like, coaches already have a general idea of like how this roster looks coming out of spring already, even before that spring game.
All right, great. So that's something people think like this spring game matters. I see people come to the store or talking about it afterwards. Oh my goodness, we can't tackle, we can't throw, we can't run. I mean, this spring game really means absolutely nothing. Wouldn't you think so? I mean, they've already seen what they want to see. This is for the fans. Go tailgate, go have a good time. Come to CanesWear, get some gear. Go tailgate, have a good time. And the coaches are obviously have seen the whole practice with them. And now the second season of the spring is going to start with going ahead and trying to get more players to add to the team, which is really exciting because it used to just be the recruiting day, that was the big thing, right? National Signing Day, NSD. It was the biggest thing in the world. Now we have the NSD part 1, the NSC part 2. We have the transfer portal part 1. We have the transfer portal part 2. I mean, there's so much going on now that college football is now, it's 12 months a year.
Well, I'll tell you 2 things that are potentially coming up the pipeline that not many people are discussing right now. You could start seeing recruits signing to schools as early as the summer. Not this year, but maybe within the next year or 2. It's being very much highly discussed and possibly can happen. And in terms of the transfer portal, there's a lot of discussion about just completely removing the spring portal and just making the winter one like the only one. Like, that's your time to hop in. Either you get in there or you don't. Basically, in terms of like for football, other sports is a little different calendars.
All right. Anthony, not understanding why Vegas, I guess, is still got they got Notre Dame as a favorite on the road to win the game. My personal opinion, Anthony, I really wouldn't worry about that too much, what the spread is. I know we want to be respected, but I'd almost rather go in there an underdog than a favorite anyway. I think by the time the game starts, we will be a favorite. But if we're an underdog, it's all the better, especially if you're a betting person, you believe in the Canes, you get free points. That's my thought on that. Gio, what about yours?
Why Notre Dame's the favorite? Well, when people have asked me about the game, I've said my concern for Notre Dame is who's going to be their quarterback. That's what I really want to know. I think a lot can be determined with that. Also, I know they're going to be returning majority of their defense. Yes, Al Golden left for a new job. We'll see. There's always first game jitters. Things that teams have to get out. Let out some rust, some kinks before they're like full steam ahead during a season. So a lot of things can happen in the first game, but I think that game will just rely a lot on just like run game. Like, can Miami establish the run? Can Miami push the ball down the field with Carson Beck when they need to? Because the secondary for Notre Dame they're really good. They have a really good defensive backfield. I know Miami's massively improved their cornerbacks room. Safety, they still need another guy, but I think it's going to just boil down to just controlling the line of scrimmage. Like, can Miami's offensive line in that run game control basically the pace? I would say the pace of that game.
All right, yeah. I think if we pack the Orange Bowl, if we pack Hard Rock Stadium like we will, I know it'll be a sold-out crowd and exciting in an atmosphere in the evening under the lights. We've got a big advantage. We know what happened the last time they came here. I'm pretty sure it was in 2017 and the sold-out crowd. They haven't been here since, correct? We've been there, but if we can pack the house and it's all University of Miami fans, I think that's going to be the 12th man is going to make a huge difference. Going back to Anthony, I think you're asking about a gift card. If you haven't got your gift card, I will check on that. I thought you did receive your gift card or I'll resend it again. If you don't have it after tonight, please send me a message on Canes_wear and shoot me a message or anywhere you can find me. Just shoot me a message in Instagram or Facebook or X, and I'll see if maybe we're sending it the wrong place. I apologize for that. I think that's his question there. Gio, do you think Miami would be interested in the Florida safety that hit the portal?
I haven't really been watching the portal in terms of the football side of things for the last day or two, so I'd have to see what names have popped in there. But if it's one of the really productive ones, yeah.
Absolutely. We don't mind getting Gators. Is Abraham Murray, Jake, thanks for asking another question. Is Abraham Murray struggling? Is there the transfer taking the job from him?
So the transfer he's talking about is the kicker they took from FAU, Carter Davis. So mostly known as a kickoff specialist. The two of them are competing during spring for both the kickoff job and being the place kicker as well. In terms of the feedback that I've gotten on that competition. Not exactly great.
Oh, we lost Gio for a second. See if he comes back. While Gio's in purgatory for a moment, let you know about CanesWear and CanesWear.com. We have a new item coming in tomorrow. The Sean Taylor, the Mitchell & Ness, Sean Taylor, and Ed Reed jerseys will be in stock tomorrow. They're really awesome. They look like the 2001 team. We've got those coming in. A bunch of other items are coming in as well, but those are 2 hot items that will be here tomorrow. You may have seen them at some other places. Shown as coming soon. We will have them in the store tomorrow. I think Jeff will be unboxing them as soon as they come in, but they are online right now that you can get them. They are going fast, I know. So you may want to check them out. The Ed Reed and Sean Taylor. And if we can have safeties like that again at the University of Miami, we are going to be in great shape. And the way you talk about one safety in particular, I'm not going to compare him to those 2 superstars, Gio, but Zachariah Poyser, correct?
Yes.
If hopefully we'll keep the safety U going, because we've had some amazing safeties in the past on this team, and hopefully we will continue that with Mr. Poyser and others that we're getting. So that's exciting. So CanesWear.com, lots of items. Panther playoffs coming up. We got, if you're a Panther fan, Inter Miami and Messi. Like I said, the Sean Taylor and the Ed Reed jerseys will be in store tomorrow. Bunch of other cool things. Keep on the lookout for other specials with our 15th anniversary coming, being all month long, doing special things. So keep your eyes out on the email, social media, and everywhere else. Any last questions? Gio, has Judd solidified the backup spot?
No one has solidified the backup.
No one solidified it. It's anybody's game there, Anthony. Anthony's also a Notre Dame fan because his uncle was a fan. Uncle went to Notre Dame. So hopefully the Miami side of you will be victorious, Anthony. Do we think we'll be able to stop Notre Dame's running attack with Jeremy Love? He's the best back in the league. Country. New King God says that. Jeremy Love. Is that someone our defense can handle?
I like Miami's defensive line. I think they have a great group there. I'm not sure how I feel with the linebacker situation right now. I really think that they're missing a tone setter in the middle of that defense.
Do you think we can see some surprises in the portal that you're not even thinking about? It's not on anyone's radar. Do you think we could see any surprises?
Like in terms of position or a player?
A player, position that they may be looking at, talking to, somebody that we don't even know that is coming out of the portal. So that'll be a complete surprise. What's your feeling? Do you think the coaching staff knows that we need linebacker help?
Yeah, they for sure know that, and they feel that too. In terms of like if they have a feel that like a big player will hit the portal, I think so. In terms of like the wide receiver situation, yes. Now, when it comes to like defensively, like linebacker, I haven't been given any like inkling about that. Like if there is going to be a big name or not. They looked at quite a few guys even before the spring, and there wasn't anyone that they really fell in love with.
Awesome. Somebody asked, I saw it before, is the game going to be televised?
From my understanding, no. I know it was being discussed back and forth a couple weeks ago that potentially ACC Network, I hinted to some people that there was a good chance that it may not be televised. Just a lot of it has to do with coaches around the country saying that, they don't want other teams basically seeing their team on display, whatever, to basically look at the film and say, hey, maybe we'd like to get this guy or try to tamper with this guy or whatever. He's not playing much here, but, maybe he could help us. And I get it. I understand it. It sucks for the fans, though. I absolutely do believe that. It sucks that the fans can't see that, especially like if you're out of state, or I know the tickets are completely sold out for the spring game. And anyone that's trying to even request tickets now, you can't even get them.
All right. So how many does it hold? Any idea?
Believe will be close to like 3,000 that can be
3,000. So, which is, I mean, the days of it being at Lockhart, or obviously now would be the Inter Miami soccer field, Chase Stadium over there. Those were cool. It's more centrally located, but obviously it's at the university, and more people can go. I mean, disappointing, I think, to some people that, not more people can go to these and see it. And I think it'd be a lot better for the university to get more people there, but it's their choice, and we're just happy they're having a spring game.
Yeah.
I think we got to most of the questions. Canes Cats Heat did say that Ray's interview really fired him up. I know you've turned the page here on Ray. You're excited about him, correct? Not that you weren't before, Gio, but I know you're pumped about him now, right?
Yeah, of course. He's had some nice performances throughout spring. It seems like the light has come on now for him. More consistent now, more of a veteran type of guy. Again, though, like I mentioned earlier, I still would not be surprised if they try to go after a veteran guy potentially for the slot wide receiver position. Just continuing to raise the floor in that room, and whoever wins the competition when fall camp comes.
We need depth also. Absolutely. Who would you say the one guy in offense is standing out right now for the that you've seen so far all camp?
Elijah Lofton.
Elijah Lofton's the man. Okay, so we're going to be quite surprised to see him. How about on defense?
On defense, I would say I would like to say one of the defensive linemen, because like Justin Scott's flashed quite a bit. A bunch of these guys have, but I just think just watching last season, seeing it up close, Xavier Lucas, Charles Brantley, Zachariah Poyser, Ethan O'Connor, adding guys like that. Like I'm not saying these names just to say them. Like these guys are truly going to help Miami in the secondary this year. Like there was a total overhaul of that cornerback room. Like now it really looks how you would expect a Miami secondary to look. Just got to add one more safety.
I'm sorry?
Just got to add one more safety.
Absolutely. All right, so we're excited about spring. We've got 1 week from today. If it's the 16th is when the transfer portal opens again. It's open for what, 1 week, 2 weeks?
I believe it's a 10-day window. I got to check the NCAA calendar again. Actually, I'll give you the answer right now.
Awesome.
Portal window.
Looking it up right now with Gio. We're going to pick a winner for the contest as well. I'll see if Gio has someone. If not, I'll pick someone. Actually, while Gio's looking up that, I'm going to pick. I'm going to go with Canes Cat Heat 305. I don't know if you've won before, but you are the winner of tonight's contest. Thank you very much. If you can go ahead and send Gio a message and give your information, your name, your email, your full name and your email. If you're on the CanesWear Rewards, the email you use for that. If not, whatever your email is, or you can send Canes _wear, WEAR on X, or find CanesWear on Instagram. So if you can send us a message, we'll send you out that gift card. Anthony will check on your gift card as well, and anyone can just reach out to us, and we will definitely follow through on those if you haven't received it. What do you got for us, Gio?
No, I just hope everyone that is going to the spring game that you all enjoy it. Nice experience. Take your family out there if you can. I'll be out there just covering from the field. I know for the people that may be at home and you're not able to watch it on TV, I know. Let me rephrase that. From what I understand, they will have a radio broadcast for it. I think it's 560 WQAM. They will have something. But for the people that just want the consistent updates and whatnot, I'll be putting stuff out there for people to see and just read and hear and whatnot. So it'll be like you were there, maybe not exactly, but as close enough as you can.
Now, Gio, tell everybody where you are. And also, I know you have a private Discord. Also, if you follow Gio, you know that you can get some information that he can't share over the airwaves that he does share in that as well. So let people know where to find you, Gio.
Yeah, everyone can find me at GeoMillion on X. I also have a weekly show with Amon Richards that I do multiple times a week called Who Wants Smoke. You can find that on YouTube at Who Wants Smoke _Inc. It broadcasts on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, different platforms it's on. But a lot of good nuggets in there as well. We had a ton of scrimmage nuggets that were in there like the morning after and whatnot. But we'll have another one again this week, me and Amon, like before the spring game and then something after.
Awesome stuff. We'll have to have Amon on our show as well, so you can go ahead and cross talk. All right, exciting stuff. So look for Geo. He's on X as at GeoMillion on X, as you know, and you can check him out. Of course, CanesWear, Canes_wear. You can check us out on Instagram, CanesWear, Facebook, everywhere. Remember, we're on the FTSN network for Bobby and his team. They do an awesome job producing this show and so many others. Like and subscribe. Canes Cats Heat, please reach out to us for your $25 gift card. Congratulations. Thank you to everybody for watching the show. We appreciate all our fans. Exciting week coming up. Exciting week with the draft. We'll be talking about that more next week. Thank you very much, and go Canes.
Go Canes.